Okay, so in this session, we'll be discussing about Splunk. Why do we need a Splunk and what exactly a machine data? And we'll also understand the importance of machine data, how to analyze, what if we don't analyze the data, and what are the benefits of analyzing the data with the help of monitoring tools, and mainly we are focusing on Splunk. All right, let's get it. So, what do you mean by machine data? What are all the machines we know in general in day-to-day life, right? So definitely we have laptop, desktop, smartwatches, refrigerators, sensors, medical devices, and some of the software applications like Google, Yahoo, and some of the websites which are hosted on some servers, right? So these are all called as machine data. And whatever the machine data which we receive from them, these are all in complex in nature, which will not be able to understand by human, which are unstructured. So as I mentioned, so we can get the data from sensor, cloud services, probably AWS, EC2 sensors, RDS. So these kind of data, from these machines, we'll be able to receive the data for analysis purpose. And some of the logs or data from IoT devices, mobile devices, and some of the web applications as well. If we can see here, so here we see IP address, afterwards we see some string, right? So definitely it will be very much difficult to understand this kind of data. This is the data which will be generated across all the applications and which will be in a complex in nature. Why do we need these data to be analyzed, right? Why do we need to capture these data, and why do we need to analyze this particular data in our organization? Let us think of one scenario, and let me try to correlate the same example with our monitoring tool. Okay. Now, let's say I'm the end user. I'm using one mobile application, or for example, we can say one game application which I have downloaded, which is a paid version from authorized vendor. And morning, I just started using it around 10 o'clock, and after some time, it started giving me an error called 404 error, and I'm not able to proceed with my gaming applications anymore. In that case, what I'll do, I'll check for internet connections and whatever the possible options which are available from my side. Then I'll do that. If still issue persists, then I'll call up the support people from the respective vendor. And definitely, they'll also try to suggest something to look at the network bandwidth or whatever the steps which you have followed and everything. They'll also try to give some solutions. If not, if the issue is not resolved from the supporting team itself, what they'll do, they look for the people who have already implemented this particular product. Definitely, we'll have a front-end team, application team, and database team, right? So definitely we'll have multiple teams which will be working for a particular product. What support people will do, they'll just try to pass the information whatever received by the end user to the front-end presentation team, front-end GUI team. Probably they may take some time. Let's take an example of 30 minutes to analyze the data, analyze the error message which was received by the end user. Typically, all these logs, the application log, will be generated under var log messages in this folder. In here, if your application is Linux, then definitely you will be seeing a folder called var log. Under that, you'll be able to see the messages or whatever the logs which are captured as part of this application usage. So somebody has to log into that machine, somebody has to get into those folder path, and they need to start searching the error code, whatever received by the end user. So after spending 30 minutes of time, and they'll go back and say that this is not an issue from our side. Why do they need 30 minutes of time just to come up, to just to search, right? Because it will be in terms of MB. Sometimes it will be in terms of gigabyte, right? Think of if I just give 100 lines of 100 lines of data, and if I ask you to search this, it will be easy for us, right? It is just 100 lines of data. We'll just put it in Notepad or Excel, and we'll just do Control F, and we'll just search for that particular error. Think of if you have 1 million rows of data, and if I ask you to go through the error message and get me some statistics out of it, in a sense, it will be very much difficult to analyze the data, to search the required data out of 1 GB of data, right? So this will be very much difficult. So probably that is the reason this front-end team, they have taken at least 30 minutes to search for this error, and going back to the support team, and they confirm that this issue is not with us. Then support team, again they'll contact the application team here, and again application team also follow the same process. They'll check the logs which are generated internal to their machine. They'll log in and done. And later, after spending 30 minutes or 20 minutes, again they'll report back saying that this issue is not with us. Again, support people, again they'll communicate with the database team, and luckily database team, they'll identify, yes, this issue is with us. This 404 exception, it has happened because of some database transaction. Okay, then this particular end user, this database team, they'll communicate to support team saying that this issue is with us. Please kindly inform the end user. We'll be resolving that issue as early as possible. And same thing will be communicated, and database team start working on these things. And once they have implemented, once they fix that issue, they'll report end user. Think of at least just to identify a root cause. I mean, this particular issue belongs to which team. So just in order to identify that, we took around more than 1 hour, right? So this is a problem typically we face in our day-to-day life. But again, this is also a problem, right? So what we can do, we can introduce something called as a monitoring tool, right? So instead of, we'll just introduce a monitoring tool, something like this, okay? And we will store all the data. Instead of storing our data on our application servers, I will just read the data from these application servers, and I will store on a component called Splunk. Okay, and what I'll do, I'll just create a kind of, the data in terms of buckets, and I'll store them on Splunk. And what I'll do, to the support people, I will give access to Splunk. It is similar to mini Google. See, for example, if you want to search something on a Google, you just open a browser and you start something like that, right? So similar kind of things. I will create a search head called a search bar, and I will give it to support people. So as all the applications are sending logs to Splunk, and support team will have access to Splunk so that they can query the data as they need. Now, if the same issue comes up from the end user, then this particular support team will log into Splunk, and they'll search for this error message which was given by end user. And if that states that this issue is with the database team, immediately that will be reported to database team, and they start working on it. So here we save a lot of time just to identify the cause. But again, it is not advisable as well. We need to automate this process. It is not that something we need to hear it from end user, right? So in that case, we can create some queries or alerts or dashboards with the help of Splunk. As and when database application reports an error of 404 exception, then there should be an email triggered to a respective team member. Then immediately that application team will start working on it. So that end user we should not wait for end user to report an issue. These are all internal error, right? So whatever the errors which was received by applications, everything will be stored here, and Splunk will analyze the data which was received by these applications. And we can create a notifications or kind of alert as and when if some applications report such kind of error, and we'll just send out a notification, and then application will start working on it. This is the need of monitoring tool, right? So this is where the monitoring tool comes into the picture. Then, as we are discussing about machine data, right? So whatever the data, what is happening internal to the application, right? Everything will be captured under var log messages on your Linux machine, right? So these kind of data we needed to capture, and later we can analyze this data so that we can, we can take a precautions kind of thing, so that people within the organization they are aware of these kind of errors they have reported by these machines or these devices, and it can be taken care, right? This is the importance of having a machine data analysis, right? So what is machine data? As I mentioned, it is very much complex in nature, which is definitely it can't be understandable by human being. So what we'll do while ingesting the data, to the Splunk, we will what we'll do, we'll just extract some knowledge out of it, and we'll store them in a Splunk. These knowledge will help us to get some detailed information about the issues or root causes. So that is why we have something called as monitoring tools. We have hundreds of monitoring tools in market. So some of them I have listed down, and let us also try to compare the data whatever we have. Right? So we have Sumologic, we have Logly, Splunk, Greylog, ELK, many more. Now let us try to understand what makes uh, Splunk to use widely, and why are we learning Splunk today, and why are we having a series of videos why I'm creating, because of all Splunk which is offering uh, kind of a huge practices within Splunk, and they are coming up with many releases or kind of apps services, so which will help us to accommodate these facilities in our organization. You may ask one question: why do we need to monitor the data? Can we monitor this data across the all the devices in the world? No. So this particular monitoring tool should be designed for your organization. If you are working in a company called ABC, then all the routers, switches, sensors, databases, applications, these are all belong to your organization. And we need to have a statistic, or we need to have an eye on the machines, whatever we have in our organization, right? And if something goes wrong, if somebody is trying to hack my machines within my organization called ABC, then I should be intimated very early, so that I can secure my infrastructure, right? So for these kind of things, we need a monitoring tool, and we have many monitoring tools in the market. Let us try to compare with Splunk. And I'm trying to compare with these many features which are part of monitoring tools. We can search, analyze, visualize, and we can also create some dashboards. What do you mean by search? See, let's say I want to search something on a particular IP address, right? So what I'll do, I'll just try to give some index name, and I'll just try to give a host name by referencing the IP address. Then whatever the logs which are generated based on that IP, everything can be listed down, and I will be able to see those results within fraction of seconds. How can we search? Before search, we need to index the data. When I say indexing the data, we are storing the data on Splunk. And once we store and search, definitely we can do kind of a analysis. And coming to Splunk, we can create an extensive dashboards and reports for visualization purpose, so that we can try to compare the data from previous month to the current month, and we can see the progresses, in business aspects. And one of the biggest advantage of having Splunk is that it is available as SaaS product. When I say SaaS product, it's a SaaS software as application product. So which means Splunk itself is offering as a SaaS product, so that each and every infrastructure with respect to Splunk will be maintained by Splunk organization itself. This is one of the biggest advantage of having Splunk, and in future, Splunk Cloud is the future. And it Splunk also does support on-premise setup. What do you mean by on-premise setup? Which means based on our data volume, the data we are ingesting, based on that, we have to purchase the software based on our daily indexing volume, and they'll be giving us a link to download this particular software, and we need to create a instances, we need to create a servers, and we need to maintain our architecture and everything. We'll have to install and configure. So here, each and everything will be our responsibility. They'll just give us the software, and we'll have to create the infrastructure based on our needs. But coming to SaaS product, we need to extend our requirement, and they will set up and they'll give it to us. This is the difference between SaaS and on-prem of Splunk. And with the help of Splunk, we can input any kind of data. It can be a JSON, it can be a text, or it can be log, or it can be any format. So Splunk will not deny anything which is coming into Splunk. And Splunk definitely it does support a lot of plugins. For example, let's say I want to get some data from Jenkins. Jenkins is a tool, right? So for that, Splunk has provided some tools so that we can integrate Jenkins with the Splunk. So these kind of facilities which are available. And for some of the, see, typically, if you are using Splunk, we need to have a kind of a forwarder or Splunk agent that needs to be installed on the applications. Sometimes, if you are not in a position to install our agent, then Splunk is also providing an option to make use of these kind of plugins or kind of a syslog servers. For example, if you want to read some logs or data from routers and switches of your networking kind of thing, then it will be difficult to maintain our agent there. Instead, what we can do, we can just set up a syslog server. So with the help of syslog servers, we can get those logs and we can store them on index. We will see them in detail going forward. And definitely, as per my experience, we get a very good customer support, and also we can see very good documentation. I'll show you probably in upcoming sessions how to use Splunk documents and how to search. Definitely, it is very much neatly maintained, and whatever the information they have given, it's completely acceptable. So this is about Splunk having these features. And we do have Sumo Logic. Of course, Sumo Logic is also a very good tool, but it is available as SaaS product. So which means everything will be maintained by them. So I cannot customize as per my requirement. So this is one of the biggest drawback of Sumo Logic, which means on-prem setup is not there. As on-prem setup is not there, and it's a SaaS product, they'll not reveal much on the documentation. So we get very less documents on the internet on Sumo Logic. And coming to ELK. So of course this is possible, but it needs a lot of integration work and also along with some plugins. If you want to input some data, again we need to do with the help of plugins with a lot of integration. And coming to Greylog is really good, but it does support on-prem setup, not on the as a SaaS product. And vice versa, Logly, it is available as a SaaS product, but it is not having a on-prem setup. So you can just Google it, and you can have a couple of discussions on this. So ultimately, trust me, your preference would be selecting Splunk for your organization. It is more of securing your data for your organization, and it will help us in analyzing the data. It will help us in visualizing the data. It will also help us in kind of hacking, or if somebody is trying to hack your machine. So kind of a security related thing we can achieve with the help of Splunk as a monitoring tool. Now let's get into Splunk. As I discussed, it's a monitoring tool, it's a reporting tool, it's a visualization tool, I can say, right? So it's a software platform which will help us to search, analyze, and visualize the machine-generated data. As I mentioned, machine-generated data is very much complex in nature. With the help of some Splunk configuration, we'll try to extract some knowledge out of it, and we'll store them in a Splunk indexer. So once we store them, then it will be easier for us to get back the results by searching some queries, and I can also analyze the data. And Splunk will receive the data across all the applications. Even you can receive the data from sensors, routers, switches, or any web applications or any Windows logs. Right? Each and everything can be received and analyzed properly for our future uses. Okay, now let's look at some benefits of having Splunk. We can analyze the system performances. This is one of the major advantage of having Splunk as a monitoring tool. How to analyze system performance? See, probably there are so many factors of to analyze our system performance. Probably CPU utilizations. There are the hardware which are allocated for our environment, disk usage. All these metrics can be get with the help of Splunk. So we can write some queries, and with the help of some dashboards or with the help of some configurations, system performance metrics. And so that it will be kind of a monitoring tool, right? So it will keep on monitoring my system performances. If something goes wrong, I will be notified as early as possible by sending some notification so that I can get into it. I can take necessary actions so that my application should not get affected. And let's say, for example, some applications, or let's say some of people are using Java application, and that particular application is throwing some exception, Java related exception, IO exception. Then that if we need to get some session ID or kind of exception details, and with the help of Splunk, I can dig down and I can get into the actual root cause from which line of code which is throwing an exception. So these kind of troubleshooting, which is always possible with the help of Splunk. And the third point would be monitoring business matrices. See, as I mentioned, I can put I can have a matrix, or I can have a statistics of the business which have ran in the last month, and same thing can be kept, and I can also compare with the statistics or whatever the business which have done for the current month. So this is kind of a comparison, comparing the previous statistics with the current statistics, so that I can look for some progress of my business. So these kind of matrices also it is possible to analyze with the help of Splunk. And definitely we can search and investigate a particular outcome. If we are really looking for some router issues and all, we can dig into it, and we can get the very least or very the bottom level of logs or data for that particular incident. And one of the biggest advantages of Splunk is we can create a dashboard, we can visualize the results. So let's say if I have to get some results out of like how many customers they have logged into our application. If that is the case, I can create some queries and I can extract them as a dashboards in a pictorial manner so that I can have a day by day code. Okay, today 10 more users they have added. I mean, they have started using our application, and probably yesterday we can check the count. So these kind of statistics we can get with the help of Splunk. And all this is possible because we are storing and retrieving the data for later users. So, I mean, it all depends on the data retention policy. So, based on the data retention policy, we can store the data. If some of the data, if some of the application data needed for 1 month, we can customize our configuration to store them for 1 month, and later we can delete it. Or if you want to archive some data after month, and later if that can be used, that is also possible. And so some of the application data we needed for 1 year, that is also possible. So it all it's all in our hand to customize the data based on the data aging. Right? So we have, I mean, just given a few advantages of having Splunk. We'll see little more. All right. What type of data Splunk can read? Splunk can read the configuration data, messages, alert, whatever the data which is available in our real-time applications. All these logs or data can be read and stored in our Splunk database. For example, if it is a Windows, definitely we can have Windows logs, Linux, or any of the cloud machines or cloud services, applications, databases, networking, routers, switches. All these machine data can be read and stored on Splunk. This is the biggest advantage of having Splunk in our organization, that it can read all type of data. And once we have the data, as I mentioned, we'll have to extract some of the knowledge out of it, and we'll have to store, and that can be used for our later use. And coming to Splunk product, Splunk is offering many products based on a customer requirement. If I say, just give me a software based on my indexing volume, let me try to build my infrastructure my own, and I'll try to maintain that. It is my responsibility to maintain my infrastructure. If that is the case, Splunk is offering called as Splunk Enterprise. It's an on-prem solution. So they'll just email us this Splunk product, and they'll just pass on one link, and we'll with the help of that we'll be able to download, and we'll install, and we'll maintain our infrastructure. And comparatively, comparing to Splunk Cloud, it is bit cheaper because they are just providing the software, and each and every information or each and every setup is maintained by us. Coming to Splunk Cloud, I just have to explain the requirement. They will build the infrastructure support and everything within their cloud, and we just have to, they'll just give access to our deployment server. We'll discuss what is the deployment server and all, so that whatever the configurations needed for the application servers, those can be maintained here. So it will be very much less work that needs to be done from our side if we are using Splunk Cloud, and 80% of the work will be maintained and managed by Splunk itself. This is a SaaS service we call, and this is also called as Splunk Cloud Services. Okay, and coming to Splunk 8, this is also a Splunk product which is designed for a very less IT organization. For example, if the capacity of that IT organization is very less, if they have few servers, so for small business kind of thing, Splunk Lite software will be used. But typically, I don't see this Splunk Lite users are they're using this one. But instead, probably in future releases, they may uh, deprecate this product as well. And apart from these products, we do have some premium apps called as ITSI and Splunk Security. So these are all apps which we need to purchase addition to your Splunk Enterprise, so that uh, those security threats and security kind of analysis can also be done with the help of the premium apps. Right? So in short, uh, Splunk is one platform which will help us in monitoring our infrastructure, and also we can also implement some security guidelines, so that if something happens to our hardware, if somebody is trying to hack our hardware, and definitely there will we will get notified as early as possible, and we can prevent that, right? So this is one of the major role of having Splunk in our organization. I'll just quickly summarize what and all we discussed. So just started with what is machine data. Machine, as we mentioned, machine data is very much complex, and it is unstructured. And definitely, it will be very much difficult to analyze the data if we have huge logs or huge data, right? So as I mentioned, definitely it will be in terms of GB. And if you just open the 1 GB of data in your text pad or any notepad, it will be difficult to analyze, and you just go through the data, right? So in order to understand how machine data plays a major role, we just looked into one example where if something goes wrong with any of the applications, then we need to report to the support people, and they used to individually connect with the necessary application team, and they look for their error, and which is a time consuming. So instead, uh, how we use a Google, similar to that, if I just implement a Google to for our organization. For example, your organization is ABC. For your ABC organization, I am trying to get all the application server log and storing it on a Splunk component. And I'll give access to these people so that they will have necessary information right away. So they don't have to communicate with the different applications, because whatever the logs which are generated with these applications, everything will be stored on Splunk, and by doing some query, by writing some query, we can get those information, and same thing can be communicated to the end user. And later, we can also automate. We'll see them how to automate this process. As and when some issues occur, we can trigger a notifications, or we can trigger alerts, so that the respective team come into the picture and they start fixing that issue. Right. As I mentioned, so we have many competitors to Splunk, but out of these components, I feel Splunk is the right choice for our organization usage. And discussed about Splunk, it's a monitoring tool which will receive the log from all the devices in our IT infrastructure, and it will help us to visualize and monitor our application data. And these are all some of the advantages. And it can read the logs from most of the IT infrastructure machines. And we have many products, something like Splunk Enterprise, Cloud, Light, and Enterprise Security, and ITSI. All these are which are available now. So yeah, this is what I had for today. In the next upcoming sessions, I'll also show you how to install and download, how to download and install your Splunk components, and we'll have a detailed sessions going forward. Yeah, thank you.